Before we start, let me give a quick promo to our Instagram account. We regularly post exclusive content, stories, quizzes, and soon we'll be giving away merch. So make sure you head over there right now and give us a follow. I'm sure you remember that at the end of last year, the UK and EU reached a deal on Brexit. May was going to present her deal to the House of Commons on the 11th of December. Everyone was saying that the vote was definitely going to happen and that the deal was going to be put to Parliament. That was until it didn't. May's deal never made it to the House of Commons in December, which means it's never actually been voted on by members of Parliament. May pulled the first vote as it was pretty clear that her almost universally panned deal would be rejected by the House. However, on Tuesday 15th of January, that's set to change. Parliament will finally get their say on the deal and will be able to approve or reject May's proposal. So there's no better time than now to refresh yourself on actually what's included in May's deal. We put out a video last year called May's Proposed Brexit Deal Explained, and I'd really recommend that you check out that video before we continue. Knowing what's in the deal is super important for your knowledge and this video. There's a link to that video in the top right of this screen and in the description. I know that people don't like clicking away from a video to watch another one first, but trust me, it's really important to actually understand what's on the table here. The deal being presented to the House is the same deal that May was going to propose last year. The first, more significant part is the Withdrawal Treaty, which lays out the terms of the UK leaving the EU. This document discusses topics including financial settlements, citizenship, and the Northern Irish border. The other half is a political declaration which goes into how the UK and EU could continue to cooperate after Brexit. This section is much more vague, and instead of being a legally binding plan, it's a set of guidelines and goals of how the relationship could work. Also, calling it half is super generous. The whole document is 585 pages long, with the political declaration taking up only 7 pages of that. So what's likely to happen when this is voted on by the House of Commons? The problem that May has is very similar to the one we reported on in December. So we'll be taking sections of this video from the video we released back then. As in December, for May's proposed deal to be successful and to pass to the next stage, it needs a simple majority, meaning that it will need 320 MPs to vote in favour of it. Therefore, achieving 320 votes out of the possible 639 is May's aim, but it's not as easily achievable as that might ordinarily be. Normally, the ruling party would have a majority in Parliament. Since the national government during the Second World War, there have only been a few occasions where the ruling party hasn't had a majority of the MPs. One recent example was between 2010 and 2015, when the Conservative Liberal Democrat coalition ran the government, and another example is now. Theresa May's Conservative Party make up 318 MPs in the House of Commons, falling short of the 326 MPs needed to have a majority. She was able to reach a majority by securing a supply and confidence relationship with Northern Irish Party, the DUP. That means that even if all of May's party vote in favour of her deal, she still doesn't have enough support to get it passed. So to get her deal done, May needs to persuade other people to support her deal, and that's partly why May delayed the deal in the first place. She could turn to her partners in the DUP, but if she did, she wouldn't likely find the warmest of welcomes. As I mentioned earlier, the DUP are a Northern Irish party, meaning that they feel the tensions caused by Brexit more than almost anyone else. One of the biggest problems when it comes to Brexit is the Irish-Northern Irish border. If the UK leaves the EU and its single market and customs union, as May's deal proposes, the border between Northern Ireland and Ireland goes from being a border between fellow EU countries to a fully fledged foreign border. This means that things will have to change at the border and could result in some kind of physical border, whether that be an actual wall or something more technological. The problem is that this division would likely violate the terms of the Good Friday Agreement, an agreement forged to prevent violence in Ireland and Northern Ireland at the end of the 20th century. So this means that most people don't want to see any kind of border return, including the DUP. May agrees with this, as does the European Union. The problem is that as much as pro-Brexit politicians might like to say that solving the border issue is easy, it isn't. Numerous Brexiteers said that it should be simple to resolve the issue, but none of them have been able to come up with a viable solution which keeps both sides happy. And this isn't me getting on my liberal high horse, they haven't been able to come up with a solution because it isn't easy. That's why the proposed deal doesn't actually solve the Northern Irish border issue, instead putting a backstop in place. This isn't popular with the DUP, as it could lead to the Northern Ireland being separated from the UK and becoming closer to the EU and Northern Ireland. If goods and people have to be checked when moving between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK, this does force the two sides apart slightly. This is especially problematic for the DUP, who are in favour of the Union and don't want to see Northern Ireland pushed away from the rest of the UK. Labour also don't like her deal, and have said that their MPs will be voting against it. This is hardly surprising for anyone who knows anything about politics, as the opposition party are never going to make life easy for the government. But this goes beyond simply playing politics. The Labour leadership say that they believe that May's deal is bad for the UK, and that they could reach a better deal. Jeremy Corbyn has been repeatedly asking for a general election to be held if the deal doesn't make it through Parliament. They're hoping that if the deal is rejected, they'd be able to gain more say in the matter. May does have a tiny bit of hope when it comes to Labour. She's likely hoping that some Labour MPs might be persuaded to support her deal, primarily those who represent constituencies who voted strongly to leave back in 2016. She's hoping that pressure from their constituents might force them to back the Brexit plan. May might have hoped that delaying the vote would have increased this pressure, but recent analysis shows that there's still very few Labour MPs who side with the Prime Minister. You might be thinking, well, those Labour MPs' support might get May to the 320 MP mark, but hold your horses. We don't know that she can rely on any of those people just yet, so she still needs more people's support. Remember, those Labour backers are very much a maybe. So without the majority of Labour or the DUP on side, who else can May count on? Well, her options are limited. The Liberal Democrats' official policy is to reject May's proposed deal, and advocate instead for a second referendum, or people's vote. The Scottish National Party also doesn't support May's deal, news which is unsurprising when you consider that Scotland generally voted to remain back in 2016. In fact, the Scottish Parliament voted 92 to 29 to reject May's deal on Thursday. Therefore, SNP MPs will also be likely to vote against May's deal. Plaid Cymru led a similar motion in the Welsh Assembly, with the Assembly voting 34 to 16 to reject May's deal. Conservatives hit back, accusing Plaid and Labour of trying to undermine the original EU referendum result. But regardless, it looks unlikely that Plaid's MPs will end up backing May's deal. The Green Party only have one MP in the Commons, but their MP, Caroline Lucas, has been vocal about opposing Brexit as a whole. The party also backed the Lib Dems' call for a people's vote. There are 9 independent MPs in the House of Commons. While independents naturally don't have a consistent viewpoint, it's likely that only 2 of the 9 will vote to support May's deal. When it comes to UKIP, well, UKIP doesn't really matter in this equation. A number of people have commented on our other videos asking why we don't include what UKIP MPs want. The simple answer? UKIP doesn't have any MPs. The party is great at getting publicity, and some would likely give them credit for kickstarting this whole Brexit discussion. But they have no members in the House of Commons right now. In fact, the party isn't even as popular in the UK as you might have thought. They only actually achieved 1.8% of the popular vote at the last general election. Okay, that's enough kicking UKIP while they're down for one day. So it looks like that even with her whole party's support, May might not be able to get a majority together. But now it's time to admit the truth that you've been likely shouting at your screen for the entire video. May really can't rely on her own MPs either. Yes, she's trying to gather support from outside her party, but while doing so, her own MPs are slipping through her hands. Pro-Leave MPs such as the European Research Group, chaired by Jacob Rees-Mogg, don't support the deal. This group of about 80 Conservative MPs are very pro-Brexit, and see the deal as too much of a compromise. They think that they'd be able to reach a better deal, and would rather have no deal than May's deal. As such, it's likely that these MPs will vote against May's deal. On the other side, pro-EU MPs also don't support the deal. There aren't that many of these, likely around 10 to 15, but every vote matters to May. However, unfortunately these aren't votes she can count on. They don't like May's deal as it pushes the UK too far away from the EU, and delivers a result that they see as worse for both sides. May hoped that by delaying the vote, that she might have been able to swing some of these Tory MPs to her side, but recent polling doesn't back this up. Virtually all media groups agree with our conclusion that when you pull these numbers together, it doesn't look good for May. Looking at how the different groups of MPs are expected to vote, it seems like the result could end up being a pretty humiliating loss for the Prime Minister, even despite her delaying the vote by a month. If you want to be kept up to date with what does happen, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, as well as following us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram.